Hello, members, subscribers, and guests of the channel. My name is Yuri. Welcome to my live talk. Today is Sunday, May 1st. Goodness gracious, we're almost in summer of 2022. Time flies indeed. The topic of today's live talk is systematic approach to dating and relationships. I know that I've played with and tampered with a bunch of different topics in the past pertaining to relationships, trying to figure out a way to make it more tangible for you all. And that's not easy to do because why? Because relationships, in its essence, a lot of times based on feelings. We feel something, we feel an attraction, we talk to a person, we start getting excited about it, and then something happens. In few of my videos, I attempted to give you tangible steps to make more intelligent decisions and to know how to approach these things. And today, my goal is to give you yet another tool to be able to have something tangible to go off of. Whether I will succeed or not, that's going to be your call. So please participate. Let me know your comments as we go through this information together. Let me know some of the questions that you have and just engage with me. I would really appreciate that. Let's see who we have in the house today. Thank you, everyone who's joining me live. Shout out to all my members. Looks like we have Michael in the house. We have Dia in the house. We have Valerie in the house. We have Heather in the house. Becky. We have the Dolphin 1985. We have Sophie. We have Kaya. We have Yvonne. We have, looks like Daphne's in the house. Thank you for joining me and good afternoon to everyone. Jamie's in the house. Awesome, awesome, awesome. What am I going to do? I'm going to show you the steps first. The steps that I deem necessary in order to develop a framework. And then afterwards, I'm going to try to put it all together in one place and showcase you the final product, so to speak. I am very curious to know your feedback about what I'm about to discuss with you and whether or not you think this could work. At least part of it can work. Maybe not all, maybe not the entire framework can work, but at least part of it can it work. Let me know in the comments and let's get started. The first thing we need to focus on, the very first thing that we need to look at is the minimum threshold. And we need to be able to define this minimum threshold when it comes to dating and relationships. And actually, I would hope that if you in a relationship with someone, you already have completed at least few of these steps to evaluate the person, to assess the person. So some of that is going to apply to dating and some of that is going to apply to relationships. So minimum threshold should be the first step before you even really start dating someone. And here, we're really looking at things that you will not compromise on. All right. So what's some of the examples that I can see people not compromising on? Looks is one of them. Status, income, personality. And yesterday when I was on a plane, I came up with another one. Potential for desired outcome. PDO, not to be confused with PTO, personal time off. This is a PDO, personal or potential for desired outcome. What that is ability to identify whether or not the person that you are dating has what it takes to meet your desired outcome. So what would be an example for that? Maybe both of you are looking for a fling. At that point, you know that relationship is off the table. That's the potential outcome there. Well, better example, one of you looking for a fling, another person looking for a relationship. Actually, that would be a better example. So you know that one of you looking for one outcome, another person is looking for a different outcome. However, if both of you looking, let's say, for a potential dating opportunity, then you know there is a match here. So this potential for desired outcome, or PDO, is an important factor. All right. The next thing, this could be different for you, obviously. These factors, this is just examples, right? But for you, they might be completely different. The point is to determine what is this minimum threshold is. Because if you know that somebody is, let's say, smoking is going to be a deal breaker for you, you're not going to go on a second date with that person. You're not going to go on a third date with that person. It's a done deal. It's a deal breaker. So you got to be critical to identify factors that are going to be so important to you that you would deem them a threshold. And if person doesn't meet that threshold, then there is no further interactions are taking place. There is no further opportunities for advancement of that relationship. The next thing we need to look at is interaction. And this is obviously exchange of information, but this is more than just exchange of its information. This is about ability to meet each other halfway. This is ability to have a two-way street communication consistently. This is ability for you to observe and pay attention whether the person that you are dating currently is going to be someone that you enjoy interacting with, right? Um, and by the way, this is also going to be the stage where you're going to determine whether another person is truly interested in you. Because to me, tell me again in the comments, but to me, if you have someone who is not interacting with you, I take it as not interested status. That's because, actions speak louder than words. So if someone's just simply not interacting with you to begin with, or if they extremely inconsistent with their interaction, well, the writing is on the wall at this point. That person is just isn't there. The first, the third factor that I identify is their present and their future. This might sound obvious, but their present might not always be exactly what you want it to be. Now, the question comes, do you believe that they're going to remain in that present, or do you think they have potential for growth? And do you believe in their ability to make that growth a reality? So what example can I give you? For instance, you meet a young man. I know a lot of my subscribers, majority of my subscribers are women. So let's use men as an example. You meet a nice middle-aged man who is going to school right now and who doesn't have a house, who maybe not making a whole lot of money. In fact, he's on the very low, in the low bracket of medium income. So you look at him right now and you might ask yourself, well, this guy is not really doing anything special right now at the moment. So why should I be excited about this relationship? Well, you could be correct, but you also got to understand that this person is currently studying in school. He has a plan to launch a career after he finishes school. He has ambition. He has goals to go in a specific field that he knows he's going to be able to leverage into a good salary, um, a successful career, and he's passionate about it, and he can't stop talking about it. So there's the example that I just gave you. There are signs, right? There are specific things that you can gauge about that person, telling you that he's not just an individual who's making, you know, average income. He's an individual who may not be there this moment, but he's going somewhere. However, if if you think that their present is so terrible or their present is so impacted by their past that they are so crippled and there's no way that they can get out of the rut, well, again, that's going to be a telling sign for you to know how to proceed. Whoopsies. Sorry. That is a note. The next thing that we need to look is comparability. Comparability comprise of several different things. Here we need to look at mission, vision, and values. And this is a very important step. With mission, vision, and values, you got to ask yourself, do we are we comparable in terms of big picture items, right? Because we can have a great time day in and day out, but are we actually looking for the same thing? Do we have the same values? Like, is it important for both of us to have a good hygiene? This might not be a great example. Maybe build a home together, right? Um, do we, as far as mission, do we want to be able to travel together? As far as vision, what do we visualize our future to be together? Do we see being able to have a family together, right? So these are very important questions to be able to ask. And again, the steps that I'm showcasing you, this is not going to be an immediate day one type of situation. You have to pick and choose how you're going to apply these steps. Comparability will come into play maybe a month after dating, maybe 3 weeks, maybe 2 months after dating. The time frame will depend on both of you, depend again on the interaction that we already talked about, and whether or not you want to take it to the next step and do the additional investigation to figure out things about this potential partner of yours. Things in common, very important. Are you enjoying the same things? So interestingly enough, people say a lot of times the opposites are attract. And I just heard something the other day when I was listening to the podcast that opposite might attract in the beginning, but it's not very long lasting recipe, ingredient for relationships. So understand that things in common could very well play into your ability to date someone long term. Do you enjoy both going to the beach? I'm hoping to go to the beach next weekend. Shout out to Michael if she's still watching. We're going to go together. Do you enjoy traveling? Do you enjoy music? Do you enjoy cooking food together? Things in common, because it allows you the opportunity to be with each other and enjoy the process. And that's not to be underestimated. Ability to meet each other's needs. Here, obviously, that's a big one. Are you able to meet each other's needs, financially, sexually, spiritually, emotionally? The list goes on. Whatever those needs are, do you foresee that that person can be that person? Do you add to each other's lives, or do you take away from it? Right? So a big thing that we're hearing right now is that when I say big thing that we hear, and I'm talking about like the content and there's a narrative that goes on internet, specifically with men, that many men now want to date women only when they add to their quality of life. Meaning that when the woman comes into my life, I want my life to be better as a result. I don't want to date a woman, even if she's hot. I don't want to date her if she's going to take away from my quality of life. Like if my life is going to be worse as a result of dating her, I don't want her in my life. It's just not worth it. So ask yourself a question, right? Is the person who is going to come in your life, are they going to make it better or worse? And I would argue, if they're not making it better, what's the use? What is the use? Again, this is probably going to apply. This is actually going to apply to both. I truly believe it's going to apply to dating. It's going to apply to relationships, and I actually even think it's going to apply to marriage, because if you were compatible in the beginning, but then you changed over time and you grew apart and you just don't like to spend time together, or you definitely feel like you're not compatible anymore, same question: is it worth it? Is it worth sacrificing your life even just for the sake of being married? I mean, it's a subjective thing, but it must be asked. Now, the next thing is still within the compatibility. Do you compromise and solve problems and disagreements? Because that's another big thing. It doesn't mean, that things just going to be perfect. Are you willing, both of you, meet each other halfway to compromise? Are you willing to work through the problems together? Because you know what? Sometimes what Chris Rock said, two people can move couch really easily. One person can move it at all. So sometimes it's not about the fact that you have problems. We're all going to have problems. We all have problems on a daily basis. It's about how you go solving these problems. And if both people working together and they both committed, you usually can do it, not fairly easily all the time, but it's doable. It's possible to solve these problems. Next, the next very important factor, in my opinion, is details. Details are the things that you find important in the person, but in a different way, right? So we talked about threshold. Threshold, I want you to understand the difference. The threshold is when you look at things that in the very beginning that you absolutely need to have in a person to even begin dating them. Details is you pay attention to when you already date them. You're already in the process. So for me, what I would recommend here is selecting 3 to 5 factors that is the most important to you. Because if you're going to select like a bunch of them, 8, 10, 12, that's going to be overwhelming in a sense for you to know what are the priorities. What are the items of the utmost importance? And for me, I'll just give you an example. So for me, I looked at 5 things that like came to my mind as I was writing things down. For me, it's initiative, attitude, consistency, honesty, and then authenticity. Now, again, they may change. They might not always be exactly the same, but what are these details that you're going to pay attention to when you date someone or when you're in a relationship that, again, is going to be important for you? The next question that is fascinating is this a life story or is it a love story? And shout out to Esther Perel, who's she's a relationship therapist. I listened to a couple of her podcasts, and that comes from her. So I didn't create it, I just borrowed it from Esther. And she posed that question: is this a life story or is it a love story? Because it's a very important distinction to make. There's going to be plenty of people that can come into your life that you can have a love story with. There's a beautiful things that you can go maybe and have go on a trip with them, or maybe you met them at a weekend getaway and you had romance, you had intimacy, you had amazing experience with them, and that could be great. But it does not mean that they're going to be part of your life story. That does not mean that these individuals you're going to be able to raise family with, that you're going to be able to build house with, that you're going to be able to take care of bills, to bury family members, to stick together through thick and thin. These are 2 different things. And so the question is it a love story or a life story? The next important thing that you have to look at is a question: am I ready? Let's be honest here. It cannot always be just about another person. At some point, you have to really take a critical look at yourself. Very critical look. And why is this important? Because you want to be honest whether or not you can be ready for that relationship? And if you answer no, you're not going to need to go through that. Sometimes you might not be ready. Sometimes the ingredients of that person are not going to create the proper chemical reaction. It's like boiling water, there's some things that need to take place. There should be certain temperature in order for water to boil. So one thing that you got to ask yourself, do they give you these chemicals? Do they create the environment for your water to boil? Because sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes it's not even that we're not ready. Sometimes it's just the individual that we dealing with, they just not giving us the proper environment for that chemical reaction. I use chemical reaction as a metaphor, but it is a chemical reaction, right? We're making these decisions. It's all chemistry, really. So on the other hand, at times you will have another individual. You might just actually got out of a relationship yourself, but you met somebody who is just making you feel like, wow, I didn't think I was ready to date, but man, I'm going to get ready for them. I really want to see where that can go. And so sometimes it could be another person who can give you that reaction. Sometimes it's not a good time. Sometimes it could be legitimate trauma that you're going through, a breakup, death in the family, loss of a job, whatever it may be, to where you're just not there in terms of mental capacity to be in another relationship. So you have to be just honest with yourself. Are you ready for a relationship? And the last thing we got to look at is a question: what do I bring? And it's a critical step as well. What can I give in this relationship? Should we be in the relationship or even in a dating type of situation? Can I be my very best? Can I add to that person's life? Can I be the very best boyfriend or the very best girlfriend in the world? Or even if not in the world, at least to best of my abilities. And the last two steps are very critical because we always usually look at elsewhere. We look outward, what the other person can do or what the other person is. But we have to take a look at and ask these critical questions as far as if I'm ready and what do I bring to the table in order to make that relationship better. Looks like we have quite a few comments. So before I show you the final product, be sure to smash the like button if you haven't already. Be sure to subscribe. Consider joining Prototype Fam on Discord server. You have the opportunity to join and become a member of the channel. So there are many different ways to get involved. You can follow me on Instagram. You can interact with me on Twitter. And of course, I'm super thankful for you being here with me live. Appreciate every single one of you. Let's take a look at some comments, shall we? Let's see. Step one, agree, but with clarifier that looks mean I'm not turned off. Attraction grows with getting to know someone. Agreed. For me, I have to have a vibe with that person. Agree. If they don't effort, I guess if they don't, you meant like if they don't put in effort, they don't really care. Typically, a person's core values make them who they are and they do not change. A person can grow, but if core values don't align, it's a mismatch. Step two, agree. Super important for women, especially, not to ignore a lack of effort and make excuses for them. Low income skills can and will grow with support. I want him to be working towards something bigger. Step three, a man with a plan. Yes. Four, unhealed wounds and lack of willingness to address them in therapy. Step four, agree. This is critical. At Kai, 100% that will blow up on other person's face. I would put it as willingness to do workshops, etc., together and not suggest they go to therapy. Some differences are important too, though. If you are too alike, it can make things boring. It can be challenging when after you've already been together for a while and they want to abruptly change paths, especially if it's something you don't agree with. A lot of current dating narratives, if I find outright destructive and almost punishing people to have totally unrealistic expectations. Because it's like dating yourself. If everything is the same, also you both need some of your own interests to do away from each other sometimes. Right, how you both work through issues is vital to the relationship. As far as what I bring, I'm honest, loyal, and have good qualities, but sometimes I will start sabotaging it without realizing it because I have some baggage and fear they will leave anyway. Thank you all for amazing comments. Love to read it. Love to see your feedback. Let's go ahead and bring it all together, and I'm going to show you what I came up with. So, quick recap before we go into this last step to put it all together. We talked about systematic approach to dating and relationships, and I shared with you some of the steps that I came up with to make relationships more systematic. We talked about minimum threshold defining it. We talked about interaction. We talked about partners present and future. We talked about comparability. We talked about details that are important to keep in mind when we are starting to date or in a relationship. We talked about distinction of love story and life story with someone. We talked about looking inward and asking yourself questions. Am I ready for a relationship or for dating experience? And what do I bring to the table in that particular relationship? So what I did, I took all these ideas and combined them together in a rubric. All right. So let's see if I can bring it on the screen. So rubric, you're probably familiar with what rubric is if you took some courses in high school or college, because that's what instructors will do. They will come up with the rubric, grading rubric, for you to look at to know where you stand and how grading actually takes place. So I took that idea and I converted into the information that we discussed today. There are many different ways to look at it, but the general idea is that you want to have these factors that we discuss in today's talk on the left hand side. So partner's threshold, partner's present and future, comparability, details. And then you want to be able to create some sort of grading system. In this particular example, it says excellent, good, satisfactory, needs improvement. But in all reality, this could be percentages. That could be 75 to 100% comparability in this first field where it says excellent. In the second field, it could be 75 to 50% comparability. You can break it down by 25%. You can break it down by 10%, however you see fit. But the idea is to take this information and figure out, given that person that you're looking to date, are they meeting your threshold? So you can put a check mark, or you can write in your feedback in the field that is designated for the proper field. I mean, not the designated, the proper field. So if your partner that you're currently seeing has good comparability with you, you would check the second box to reflect that. And then you just continue on with that type of system for all of them. So here you see the 4 first factors that we talked about. And then let me see if I can show you the other ones. And here are the rest of them. So we also talked about interaction, love story, or life story. Am I ready? And what do I bring to the table? So essentially, you just create a more visual representation to where you can go in and you can fill in this information, so you can see tangibly whether or not that person could be a good match for you, and you can see it on paper. Now, I will say that this is an unconventional approach, but I also will say that there's nothing wrong with unconventional approaches. There's nothing wrong with having a system that will help you to identify if this person could be a good match for you. Now, some of these things, I'll be honest, some of these things you probably going to instinctively know. Some of these things you're going to feel, right? Whether the interaction is good or not. But the entire idea of this is to do exactly that, is to ask yourself, is this just a feeling that I'm having, or am I really having a chance in the multitude of ways with that person? And when you start identifying the different factors, tangibly speaking, then I think it changes things. It's no longer just you're feeling on one of two things, one or two things. I mean, this is going to be more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be more critical way of evaluating someone. That's how I would put it. So obviously you will have this video. You can take a screenshot of that. For all my members, you can give me a shout out on the Instagram, and I can send you this file. You can actually go in on Canva and create your own rubric. The idea is to take the approach. So if you like the approach, if you see value in it, you can just take the approach. It doesn't, if you don't feel that all of these categories are important, obviously you can change them, but you can utilize the concept itself and see if it will work. Let's look at a couple of comments before we get out of here. I'm realizing that I like big picture thinkers, people who see beyond their present circumstances into possibilities. A guideline is great, but there are some aspects to dating that can be quantified. I don't think I can be this critical when dating. No doubt about it. The idea is not to completely replace everything else and be 100% logical. The idea is to give yourself some additional tools when it comes to dating, right? Because if somebody ask you a question why you like that person or why you want to date that person, hopefully you thought about it thoroughly, especially if you're looking for a long-term partner, right? So the fact that, like, if somebody just says, "Oh, I just like him," well, okay, but what does it mean, right? Um, does it mean that you can have some? Does it mean that you're comparable? Does it mean that you have same values? Does it mean that you can enjoy the same things and so on and so forth? So that's the idea. Isn't to replace the regular dating. The idea is to add to it. I like it. It's visual, and I'm a visual person. Nice. Have you ever heard the expression, he, she checks all my boxes on paper, but we don't live on paper? Of course. So, again, the idea is to see if there is a possibility to date, right? It's not like you just choosing an item. You choosing a person, but at least it should help to give you enough information to find out, is it a possibility or not. I'm surprised you show more emotion speaking. I remember the first time I saw your video, you had no emotions. Yeah, I've come a long way, right? Thank you for being here too. Appreciate your comment. Emotions, emotions, emotions. Could you attach this rubric to the video, please? No, I can't attach it to the video, but I can send it to you, so that's not a problem. I can send it to you either via Instagram or Discord. I think rubric can be very helpful when you are in your feelings and having a hard time being logical. I agree. I am trying to give you a little bit more logic here, so we don't have to rely solely on our feelings. My friends, that's all I wanted to share with you today. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate your feedback. Let's give quick shout outs to everyone who joined. We had a lot of people today, so appreciate you very, very much. Um, Daphne, thank you for being here. Yvonne, thank you for being here. Becky, appreciate you being here. Ari, thank you for stopping by. Valerie, appreciate you. Kaya, thank you for hanging out. Jamie, thank you so much for your feedback and participation. Dia, thank you for stopping by. I think Heather was here earlier. Yes, so thank you for being here, Heather. I think Mike was here in the beginning. Thank you for hanging out. I will be back next Sunday, most likely at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So let's go for the same time next Sunday. In the meantime, of course, don't remember to join the Discord if you're currently not part of the community. Remember that you can become a member of the channel and join amazing conversations on Instagram. Very personal conversations, very real conversations. You can be part of that incredible community. Other than that, remember that Mother's Day in USA is next weekend. Let's show some love and support for our moms, the ones who raised us, the one who made us who we are today. There's nothing like mom. I appreciate every single one of you. Have a great day. I'll be catching you next Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern during my next live talk. Peace.